You are listening to Danny on What the Heck podcast. This is the place where I share my experience, knowledge, and skills. Well, I don't know, we've got John Viney all the way from the UK, and I'm quite pleased about this podcast because it's my last podcast of the year, and I'm about to get on an aeroplane and go visit. So really nice to have you here, John, and come along.
Great to be here, Danny. Thank you.
So it's 7:00 Sunday night.
It is 7:00 Sunday night in Wales, in the UK.
Yeah. I've been to Wales. I didn't tell you that. We had a wee chat before we went live. Interestingly enough, it is 8:20 in Monday morning. So I often say to people that I live in the future and you live in the past. So do you want to know anything that's going to happen in the next few hours?
Oh, yeah. Do you know what the lottery numbers are?
I won last week. I got $25. That's good.
Well,
that'd be great.
I don't buy a lottery ticket, so don't worry.
Yeah. So I was explaining to John, I actually have about 107 to be exact questions, and I've picked out 12 questions, and I don't actually know what they are myself. And the idea behind this is just basically to have 12 impromptu questions that we ask along the way, and we don't know where it's going to take us. So okay, I'll get started with the very first question. Yeah. If you could share, now I'm a bit dyslexic sometimes, so I have to repeat. If you could share a meal with any individual, living or dead, who would it be? Who would you like to have a meal with?
Wow, wait. Share a meal. Boy, let me think. I just need to have a little think about that.
That's okay.
Well, because my father's dad and mum died when he was young. I didn't know my grandfather and my grandmother on my dad's side. So I would love to sit down and talk to my grandfather and my grandmother on my dad's side, because they were living in London. They were what we called rag and bone men. So right. the with a horse and cart. And I think they were really interesting characters. So I'd like to do that simply because it would give me some family background, some family knowledge, and I think it would be entertaining. So they're not famous. Yep. So I haven't given you the name of someone famous, but my grandfather and my grandmother on my dad's side.
Right. If you could live in a different period of time rather than the one now, where would you go back to?
Oh, where would I go back to?
I've always liked the idea of the when they had all the dances and was it 1930s?
Yeah, you mean, I know what you mean, the Charleston and the
yes.
yeah, that would be an interesting era.
Cool.
Or maybe what about the 1870s, 1880s?
You want to invent the light bulb, don't you?
When the West in the United States, when the cowboys were on the go, and perhaps having dinner with Wyatt Earp in by the OK Corral.
I've got to ask you a question. We watch the Chase TV program every night. It's one of our favourites. Do you watch it in Wales?
I do watch it, not regularly, but I certainly do watch it. Yes,
I learn a lot about history on it. Even though we're in New Zealand, we find like they're always talking about the kings and the queens' names and how long, what period they ruled. All right, question number 2. We got distracted there. We might do that. What motivates you to get out of bed in the morning?
What motivates me? I've got responsibilities, I suppose. I've got my work that I need to go to certain days. I do some voluntary work, which is very, very important to me. Like tomorrow morning, I'll be getting up early-ish because I need to go into court.
Oh.
And I've got some responsibility in the Crown Court in Cardiff. I also do some work in the prison in Cardiff.
Oh, okay.
Voluntary work. So I've got my work where I earn money, which is as a window cleaner. Yep. That gets me up. I've got work which is voluntary in the courts, and I've got work which I do voluntary in the prison. So often it's that I look forward to getting up to go to do.
All right. You have anything to do with Rotary by any chance?
No.
I did join that for 5 years for a wee while, and that was quite good, actually. Right. But yeah, they sort of brought voluntary work your way, which made it a lot easier if you were sort of struggling to get part of or associated with something.
Yeah. Well, let me just quickly tell you, as I say, I'm a window cleaner, and when it rained, as it often does in Wales, I used to go and take shelter in the courts, the magistrates' courts, because I quite like the law. I haven't got the brains for it, but I quite like the law. So I would sit in the back of the court because I couldn't work, it was raining, and I'd watch the cases going on. And then one day I asked someone about the magistrates that were sitting, did they have law degrees? And he said, no, you don't need, you just need to be an upstanding member of the community. You don't need to, it's not a qualification.
There's another common interest that we share, because I used to live right in the centre of town in Christchurch, New Zealand. And I used to go down to the courts and watch people, especially on a Monday, 10 a.m. I used to sit there, grab my coffee and go there and just watch all these, at the time I'd call them losers. And you'd be amazed what actually happened around the city at night time. And these people and the things that they were doing. Like, I remember one lady, this guy smashed the window of the car, and then he was hanging out the window as she drove off. And I think he was trying to do her for grievous bodily harm. And he was the one that broke the window and had his body half in the car. And you think, wow, people are loopy, but fascinating.
It's very interesting. Yeah, I found it fascinating. And then when I found out that I could be a magistrate, it meant going through 2 interviews. It was nothing to do with intellectual ability or academic ability. It was to do with your personality, whether you're honest, whether you can understand facts and figures and read documents, as long as you can do that. So I got through my 2 interviews and I got appointed in 2003 as a magistrate. So I now sit as a magistrate. And in fact, tomorrow I'm going in Cardiff, the capital of Wales, and I'll be sitting with a judge on appeals. So we're actually sitting on a 3-day case on appeal. Now, I pinch myself that I'm a window cleaner for most of the time, but some of the time I'm going in and I'm sending people to prison.
Wow.
Because we send people to prison sometimes. So
I reckon that'd be a fascinating job. It gives me an idea, actually.
I don't take it lightly, or I don't make fun of it. I mean, it is just a fact that one of the responsibilities is sometimes you have to sentence people to prison. And then on the flip side, I actually am a member of what they call the Independent Monitoring Board. And that is an appointment by the government, which is voluntary, where you go into the prison and the prison cannot stop you going in or talking to anyone. And you're there to monitor the prison to make sure the prison's being run properly and that prisoners are being treated fairly and decently. So there's 2 voluntary jobs there that are statutory roles. But I got my window cleaning where I earn my money.
Yeah, they're quite high profile too. Well done. I reckon that's brilliant.
So that's why I get up in the morning.
Wow, that's a good answer, that one.
Your question.
Okay, a bit of a light-hearted one. What makes you laugh the most? I hope you haven't heard any of my jokes before, because they won't make you laugh. They'll probably make you cry.
Oh,
a real good laugh.
I laugh a lot, and I make people laugh. I love hearing the sound of laughter. I'm stupid sometimes in my actions to make people laugh. I tell jokes. I do love watching comedians on the TV, or go and see them live. So I do see the funny side of it. So, and sometimes quirky, a little bit like the Monty Python team, that type of thing. I really do enjoy.
Have you ever been on a mic and done a stand-up comedian job?
No, I haven't. I've done it at weddings. I've told some funny jokes at weddings of friends, but no. Yeah.
We used to have this real cool place called the Green Room, and that's where people wanted to be stand-up comedians could have a go. So I have one joke that is really funny if it's told correctly, and I stood up and gave this joke. Everyone cracked up. They thought, "Oh, this guy's a legend." And then they said, "Oh, have you got any more?" And I said, "I've got one more." and that was a. I always remember that was my time as a stand-up comedian. Good stuff, mate. Right now, well, I don't know. COVID's a terrible thing at the moment. This question I've asked it a couple of times recently. Where in the world would you travel to next? So when we can travel again, where would you head away to? And you've said you travelled to New Zealand, which is great. So you might be, I don't know how big a traveller you are.
I've been a big traveller. I love the United States, I have to be honest. My wife and I have travelled extensively in the United States. In fact, 2 years ago, I hit the jackpot in that I reached my 50th state. So I've now visited all 50 of the United States.
Wow.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
So I love America. I love America and its environs. I love Australia, but boy, did I like New Zealand. And I'm not just saying that because you're there.
Oh, that's right. I wouldn't hang up on you.
I spent 2 weeks in New Zealand. And you know, when you're looking at your country on the map, it looks like two little islands. You've got North and South Island. So I thought, I'll have a week in the North and I'll have a week in the South. I'll do the lot.
Yeah.
And and boy, oh boy, did I realize that you need 2 months or 2 years to see it, not two. But I put myself about and I loved New Zealand, absolutely loved it. So I think I'd like to take my wife to come and see you in New Zealand.
Oh, good
and
stuff.
Get further down from Christchurch, because I had to stop at Christchurch. And in fact, I've got a very quick story about the Christchurch. When I came to the end of my little vacation in New Zealand, I got on the plane in Christchurch to fly back to Sydney to get my plane to London. By the time I got to Sydney, I arrived at Sydney Airport from Christchurch, was looking at the screens of the TV in the airport, and there was all this commotion going on in Christchurch. And I said, what's that? Is it a film? They said, no, this is the big earthquakes just happened in Christchurch.
Oh, it wasn't that long ago, 10 years ago.
And I got out. I was on the plane while that happened. I left Christchurch and missed it by an hour.
Wow, you would have been stuck here, mate. It's been amazing since the earthquake. I mean, just so much has happened. And also, we've had 3 tragedies here. We had some big fires in the Port Hills, and then we also had a guy who come in and shot.
I know, terrible shooting. Yeah.
Oh, 51 people or 55 people. I can't remember, unfortunately. Yeah. And my hairdresser, he was one of the guys that got shot, and I think he got shot 3 times, and his child got shot 3 times as well. And you're sitting here and you think, this happened in our wee city. I believe we live in the best city in the world, and then this gunman's come along and shot 50 odd people. Just incredible, And it's all with Christchurch's earthquakes, the fires, and obviously the shootings. It's just hard to comprehend all that's happening in your hometown.
Yeah. But you've got a lovely. So that's where you are then, Danny. Is it in Christchurch itself?
Yeah. And on my website, if you ever want to reminisce about coming back, I used to have a website called New Zealand's Information Network, and I've grabbed all the blogs and the articles and brought it into HEK.com. But I have information on like Franz Joseph, Fox Glacier, and all the places down the west coast, and that's where you really want to head. Like Westport, Hokitika, Greymouth, you get there and you realise there's no one else on the world. There's a very low population over there.
Well, when I was there, I made it a wine theme. Now, I'm not a big drinker, and I'm not an expert on wine, but I thought, right, if I'm going to be there, I'm going to go around the different wine regions, and I'm going to go wine tasting. And boy, you've got some fantastic wine there.
I think they're cheaper in the UK than they are here, though. That's the funny thing. Well, they actually might not be, actually. Not sure. Yeah. I met
in one of the wine regions. I met one of the All Blacks who was running a vineyard.
What do you remember his name? Because I know who it is. Oh,
John Ashworth.
Yeah, no, I do know the name. Yeah,
John Ashworth.
We go to Richie McCaw. He's probably our biggest rugby player. We were at a cafe the other day, and I walked in and I recognised the lady who was talking to her because she's a famous cook. And then right next to her is Richie McCaw, you see, and had this big debate whether we go up and ask for a photo, but we keep bumping into them at the same cafe. But it's quite neat. You bump into All Blacks all over the place. And everyone knows everyone in New Zealand.
Yeah.
That's the real big difference. And if you don't know somebody, you talking to them, you'll find they know somebody you know. Two degrees of separation.
I'm from England. I was born in London, but I've lived in Wales for nearly 50 years. I've lived in Wales, and of course Wales is a big rugby nation.
Right.
So Wales and the All Blacks, there's a bit of there's a bit of a rivalry there.
We've had some good games. I went to Loch Ness, and I couldn't get over the accent. Yours isn't very strong.
Well, I know I'm from London in the south in England. Loch Ness is in Scotland.
Oh, I've got it wrong. That's why.
You got a really strong. Yeah, you've got a different accent up there.
Yeah. From our point of view, anything in the UK is all in the same area, but not when you're over there.
No.
All right, I'll get myself out. I'll stop digging a hole. If you could go back in time and change one thing, what would it be?
Oh, that's an awkward one. I mean, part of the reason you've invited me on is to talk about my experience with a certain religion, a religious cult.
Yeah.
And I suppose if I could go back to my childhood, I'd like to change that. But then you can't, because it was my mum and dad who were in it, and then I met my wife, who I'm still married to, and so what could I change? Let's think. I would change that. I would change my early life. But if you mean in history, is that what you meant?
No, not really. I think we're on the same way.
Did I get the answer right?
For the people that don't know, our connection is we were both, a big part of my life was the religious upbringing as a Jehovah's Witness, and yours was as well. I think there's an old saying that people say that what doesn't break you makes you stronger. So all the experiences you had along the way, I've lived life now with this opinion that I'm always trying to be a better version of myself. So the learnings that I've gathered along the way, I like to think that's what's given me a character. I'm more understanding. I'm more empathetic. I listen to people more. So maybe it's a oxymoron, because it's a question, every action has a reaction. So if you change something, you wouldn't know something.
That's right. So that's why I hesitated, because I've also gained a lot from my experience, which hasn't always been happy. Some of it has been happy, but it's not always been happy. But no, I'm content with my life. I'd like to be a bit younger. I'd like to gain a few more years, but there we are. Wouldn't we all?
All right. Now, next time somebody asks that question, before we went live, you said, do you know the lotto numbers? So that could be an answer to that question. If you could go back in time and change one thing, you could change your lotto ticket numbers so you win. If money was going to bring you some happiness, not necessarily.
I'd like to give it a try.
Yeah, I reckon I'd be a real good rich person.
Yeah. I always remember the actor Robert Redford being interviewed about being a star and being rich. And he said, he was asked, what do you prefer? He said, well, I've been rich and I've been poor. Rich is definitely better. Yeah.
There was I've forgotten the guy, I think way back, there was the richest guy in the world, but he still had to pay telephone in his house. And I think that's the point where they still want money, even though they get rich. So they still strive after it.
Yeah.
Okay. So hopefully Christmas is coming up. I still don't really get into Christmas trees, I'll be honest. However, occasionally, what is the worst gift you have received? It doesn't have to be a physical gift. It could be any gift, really, but that's the question. What is the worst gift you've ever received?
Okay. I'm just going to precede that by saying that because Jehovah's Witnesses don't celebrate Christmas, and you will know this, it's only been about 5 or 6 or 7 years that we've been celebrating. So my wife and I are like big kids with children. If I tell you right now, in our house, we have 8 Christmas trees.
No way.
8. Various sizes, various colors. So my wife is like a young girl with you. If I took you downstairs to the biggest tree and you saw all the presents and the hampers and the
You're
stuff,
going crazy.
so we're gone crazy. But that doesn't answer your question. The worst gift. Let me think. Do you know what? I can't think of one because I've been appreciative of anything that's been given to me. So I can't.
I painted an elders. I wallpapered 5 rooms in an elder's house, and the elder's somebody in the J-Dub religion. And I was dating his daughter, and the daughter said, "Oh, Dad wants to know whether you want money or you want a gift for the time you spent wallpapering all these rooms." And I said, "Oh, I'd actually need the money." And I remember he bought me a top that was bright green, like hideous green, and some socks to match. And I just couldn't believe that he took the opt out on the cheap option just because I was dating his daughter. But yes, that question always reminds me of these green socks. And I went back to my employer at the time and I gave him this shirt and the socks. I said, "This is what 5 days of wallpapering gets you when you wallpaper your father-in-law to be's house." But yeah, oh, that's good. Well, that's a nice attitude. But I don't know about you, but because you've been in the 55 years in the Jehovah's Witness, was it?
55 years as a Jehovah's Witness, yeah.
Yeah, so like the joy that people get from Christmas, I've never really got into it. And same with birthdays or any celebration. I believe every day is Christmas. And if I bought my partner some headphones and you can use them when she's running. And we went out for a run on Saturday. I said, "Just open them up and use them now." And she goes, no, wrap them up. And I'm going, "No, I'll just have them now. You want to use them, so use them now and wrap up the box if you need to wrap up something." She goes, "Oh, no, you've got to." And I just don't get into that still. But
look what I've got next to me.
I look at you, eh? You pagan, you.
I've got all the wrappings. I've been doing it. I've been wrapping up.
Good on you, mate. That's nice.
I've got all the Christmas cards I'm doing. So, I do appreciate pretty much all the gifts. And we've got a daughter that has some learning difficulties. So she's a little bit childlike in her manner.
Yep.
So it's lovely. It's lovely doing Christmas and seeing someone with a childlike mind think that Santa's still coming. And so I know what you mean. As a Jehovah's Witness, it wouldn't bother me if we didn't do it. Yeah. But I now see how much joy it brings to people who are receiving. Yeah. So I get joy when I see their joy.
I think there's more happiness in giving and receiving. I hope that's not a Bible quote.
It is a Bible quote, but I'm very happy with that one. I'm very happy with that quote.
Yeah, I find myself quoting things that are in the Bible, but I keep forgetting whether they are or not. Now, we've got my partner's son sounds similar to your young person in your house, so still believe in Father Christmas.
Yeah.
Right. Does your family have a motto, spoken or unspoken? So what motto does your family go by? Does that resonate with you, that question?
My motto, it's my motto. I lost my father about 17 years ago, and I was still a Jehovah's Witness then. And I was traveling in Florida, in the north part of Florida, and I'll never forget it. I was on a beach, and I was talking to an old guy came along, and we were talking about making the best of your life. In life, you've got to, none of us know what is round the corner, especially with the COVID situation as we've got now. And this guy said to me, and this is going to be the title of my book when I write it. I've started writing it, but I've stuck.
Yep.
He said to me, "Yeah, do it while you're alive," because he said memories are better than dreams.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, yeah, memories are better than dreams. So when you're old and you're sitting in the rocking chair, I want to be able to remember going to New Zealand. I don't want to be thinking, I always wanted to go to New Zealand.
Yeah, too right.
Make it happen. So memories are better than dreams is
That's
my
brilliant.
motto.
Last year, this time, I was in Bangladesh. And I come from China, Bangladesh, and then travelled to India. And I got out of China probably about 2 weeks before it was happening. And I just keep thinking how fortunate I were that I went to these countries. And I keep thinking back, I've just uploaded some photos to my Facebook page that, you know, when they pop up and go, this time last year you were doing this. And here I am in a bus overtaking somebody at 60 miles an hour in a blind corner. And I'm thinking, I'm so lucky to be able to say that.
Yeah.
I've got an impromptu question, because before I interviewed you, I got around the internet and I looked at a lot of your videos, and I did see one video of you outside a convention centre. And I want to ask you, what is the difference between a professed Jehovah's Witness and an actual Jehovah's Witness? What's the answer?
Well, I don't know the answer, but just for your viewers to know that my daughter, one of my daughters, was sexually abused when she was about 12, 13, 14 by a Jehovah's Witness. And Jehovah's Witnesses have a real problem with child sexual abuse. However, they don't think they do. So they don't admit that any of the Jehovah's Witnesses ever do anything like that. And the nearest they came was that Watchtower magazine that I took. Now, the Watchtower magazine is the magazine Jehovah's Witnesses study and preach.
Yep.
That Watchtower just came as near as they've ever done in saying that some Jehovah's Witnesses have abused, but they couldn't quite say Jehovah's Witnesses, so they said some professed Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, you and I know that someone, for instance, who's an elder in the faith or a ministerial servant in the faith or a pioneer in the faith, they're all titles of people that have been in for many years.
Yeah.
So you're not just a professed Jehovah's Witness, you are a Jehovah's Witness.
Are we aren't?
So I use the illustration like this. If a Catholic priest molests a young boy, they're not a professed priest. They are a priest that's done wrong. Yeah. If an archbishop in the Anglican Church molests someone, they're not a professed Anglican bishop. They are an Anglican bishop who's done wrong. Yep. So if a Jehovah's Witness molests a child, they're not a professed Jehovah's Witness. They are a Jehovah's Witness. But that got me so riled up that I then went with that magazine with a cameraman to the convention in Cardiff and very, very politely tried to stop Jehovah's Witnesses and say to them, excuse me, can you tell me the difference between a Jehovah's Witness? It was brilliant,
mate. It was really good.
And a professed one.
Yeah.
And of course, they wouldn't speak to me anyway. Yep. But I was trying to make a point that really, when a Jehovah's Witness molests a child, it's a Jehovah's Witness doing it, not a professed one. That was my story.
Oh, it was brilliant, and I quite enjoyed the guy that stopped and talked to you at the end, because he was talking about a lot of the organisations like Jehovah's Witness are sort of an easy place for child molesters to get into.
Yeah.
And he said that the thing is, like over here in New Zealand at the moment, you'll be familiar, in Australia, they had, I think, 1,300 cases of children and cases that have of child molestation that had never been reported to the police.
Yeah, that was the Australian Royal Commission.
Right.
The Australian Royal Commission, yeah, they had a two-week investigation. And the Bethel, the headquarters in Australia, had to produce the figures, had to. Wow. And they found 1,006 Jehovah's Witnesses had molested, of which none reported to the police.
Incredible.
And the victims of those 1,006, there were over 2,000 victims of those 1,006 abusers. So that's why currently, as we speak, the status of Jehovah's Witnesses in Australia, they're thinking of taking their charitable status away.
I heard that they've lost it.
Well, they probably are on their way. I haven't heard that, but it's being discussed, and you can see the discussion going on in Parliament. So, so when I say that Jehovah's Witnesses have got a problem with child abuse, but the best they can do is to say, well, they're just professed Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh,
you can see why I got a little bit irate, but I wasn't irate.
You did really well. No, you did really well, and I like the way that you had that guy dressed up there, and that lady was saying, oh, I can see he's not one of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was really good. Also, the other one I noticed, I watched oxygen.com and they did that documentary on, is it the Witnesses? And they had the lady, have you seen that?
Yeah, I think I have seen that one.
Yeah.
Did
And
they
that
have a panel of ex-witnesses?
Yeah, and they basically said that there's going to be a year where the Statue of Liberty in America has dropped for a year, where they can, because after a time period, I think it's 7 or 10 years, you can't bring up an old case. So they dropped that for 12 months, and then COVID hit. And I bet there's witnesses out there thinking that COVID's a blessing from God, and it's avoided them getting into the poo.
Well,
I don't know.
They've had lots and lots of cases come forward in America, particularly in America, and the Watchtower organization are paying out millions of dollars in compensation, as they are here, I should say, in the UK. Not millions here. We only get thousands here, but there's Jehovah's Witnesses are getting the victims to sign confidentiality agreements, so they're stopping it going to court. Yep. They're paying them off, and I can tell you names of, I've seen this. They're paying them off so that the local Jehovah's Witnesses, that's why they're saying, no, we haven't got a problem. Well, because they're not hearing so much about it, because they're getting paid off.
Because they don't want to bring reproach against Jehovah's name.
That's right.
You know, the same old story. And I think every time they get persecuted, they think that's all part of the, the sign of the time, and it just goes around. And funny enough, when I was brought up in a small congregation, we had about 100 people, and there was an elder there, Ronald Reynolds was his name. He'd be passed away now. And I found out 20 years ago that somebody used to look after me as a kid, that they were molested by him. And then there was a whole case, and we heard about it in the grapevine, nothing done about it. And it all makes perfect sense when you hear it, and you go, oh, that explains it, and it's just shocking. And I just love the fact that they can dig up these old cases now and do something about these guys.
Well, that's why I'm speaking up about it, Danny. Now I only just came out myself about 18 months ago, less than that. I myself was abused as a young boy by a Jehovah's Witness.
Amazing.
Now, I never told a soul, never mentioned it to my family, to my wife, to my kids. And it was only about a year ago. I was being interviewed by the BBC in London about child abuse in Jehovah's Witnesses. And because of my daughter was abused. Yep. And I thought it was about time I said what happened to me. And so while I was sat on the bench being interviewed, I just said, look, I should tell you that I was abused. And do you know what? It was quite frightening, because I was invited to London down into the studio, and my face suddenly appeared on the TV early morning with the news, and they had so many abuse victims ring the program. Crazy, that they had to carry it on another day. So they actually did 2-day program about it, because so many people were. So I'm glad I spoke up, because it gave other people the courage to ring in and say, look, you might as well know this happened to me as well. So this is the Jehovah's Witnesses who say they don't have a problem. They've got a real problem.
Why people don't speak up, just before we went live on the podcast, when you leave the organization, you're not just leaving an organization, because you spend all your life learning the doctrine beliefs, and you've also exposed other religions. So it's not like, you have a government and you think, well, I'm not going to vote for National, I'm going to go with Labour now, because you just have to you have to extinguish all your beliefs. And you basically say, now I had a purpose in life, and now I'm going to leave an organisation that I believe was the right organisation, and have no beliefs. It's very hard to do. And I think a lot of people who don't understand it, I often hear comments and I go, oh, it's just very hard to describe what it's like when you leave the organisation. And then you basically, because I was 23, and when I left the organisation, I basically, I got this fellowship the first time, and I used to go along to the Kingdom Hall, and I used to sit at the back of the Kingdom Hall and bawl my eyes out every day. I was at the meeting. So 3 times a week I'd go along to the thing, And then after 4 months, they must have thought I was suicidal thoughts or whatever, and they reinstated me. So 4 months, I was back in the organisation. Then a year later, I did something else again, and I got kicked out. And then I was a bit harder then. I was about 2 weeks from being reinstated back into the organisation again, and I stuffed up again. And then I sort of thought, oh, I'm just getting continuously beaten down for not being up to the standard of the organisation. And then I thought, I'm going to give up on this idea. So then I went and started finding friends, because I used to think that outside the organisation there was pagan people.
Yeah.
And pagan people were bad, and you can't have good, solemn, trusting relationships with these people. No, and I've proved that wrong.
We were all taught that you can only associate with Jehovah's Witnesses. That's where good people are. If you don't go to don't have friends who are not Jehovah's Witnesses, even your relatives.
You played soccer. You loved soccer.
I did used to like soccer. You couldn't join the team that was going to play after school because you're not allowed to have after school activities. No, it was but that's part of their skill set to keep you trapped. Yeah. Because if you haven't got friends outside because they're bad, they keep you focused on just Jehovah's Witnesses. They've got you, and that's why it's a cult. It's a mind control.
It's the only bargaining power they've got is your family. They take the most precious things that they can, and they bargain. If you don't do this, we're going to take your family away from you. As I was saying earlier, my mother, my my niece and my nephew, my half brother, they don't have anything to do with me at all. And it's I remember, because you said that when you wanted to play in the soccer team, instead you would be knocking on people's doors. And I think you used to spend 100 hours a month, and I used to spend 60 hours a month. I used to be a regular pioneer. But when I was at the age of 13 or 14, I used to have to go around my neighbourhood and knock on the doors, dreading the fact that one of my schoolmates were going to answer the door.
I know the feeling.
And I got picked on so much that I had this fear of bumping into them. And I left school at 14, and you left school at 15, didn't you?
15, yeah. The other thing is, of course, you can't take part in any religious activity in the school.
That's right.
So, for instance, in the morning assembly, we called it the morning assembly. I used to have to sit on a chair outside the assembly. So all the kids would be passing me saying, Viney, why aren't you coming into assembly? So talk about making you an object of derision.
No, I couldn't. I remember the headmaster of the school, when I said I was leaving at 14, he said, is there anything that we can do to convince you to stay? And I said, not a snowball's chance in hell, mate. I'm out of here. Because my birthday's in January, so I turned 15 over the school holiday period. So I was out of there. So, hey, good, mate. We've got a couple more questions. We'll battle on. If you were to tell one person, thank you for helping me become the person I am today, who would that be? Who would you thank for who you are today?
Boy, this is going to be a strange one. It would be my brother-in-law who died a year ago.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
It was a very unusual one in that my daughter, the one that was abused and then got disfellowshipped, which means, as you know, it means that we can't talk to her. We had to shun her for 10, 15, nearly 12 years. So that means that if we meet her in the street, we pass her, we don't pick the phone up if she rings. For the rest of her life, we don't talk to her because she's disfellowshipped.
Oh, this drives me crazy. It's just another.
I know. Yeah. Well, I'm just going to say to you, she approached me and asked me if I would walk her down the aisle. She was getting married.
Yep.
And because she had such unhappy memories of being abused, I decided, do you know what? I'm going to do it. Now, I knew I wasn't allowed to do that because I'm an elder. I have to set an example to the flock of other Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm not allowed to have anything to do with my daughter. I'm not even allowed to say hello to her.
Yeah.
So I walked her down the aisle. We had a great day. I got reported by my brother-in-law, who was a Jehovah's Witness. He told on me.
Yep.
But do you know what? That started a chain of events that meant I left.
Yeah.
So I've got my freedom now.
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate it at the time, but because my brother-in-law reported me, and then we went through a series of meetings. It was difficult. I was almost always going to have a nervous breakdown. I know, but because he reported me, that started that chain off that led to my freedom. So I'm going to say thank you, Mike. I didn't appreciate it at the time, but Mike, you gave me my freedom. Brilliant.
Hopefully he's listening to our podcast. I doubt it, but yeah. Okay. We better carry on because I've got a plane to catch. We've got what's your proudest accomplishment? And you can't say your children.
Proudest? Well, I suppose I am proud that I'm a magistrate.
Yay.
When you hear of someone being a magistrate, as I did at first, I'm a window cleaner, Danny, and that's my job. I don't consider myself having a lot of brains, but I do my best. When it used to rain and I couldn't go to work cleaning windows, I used to sit in the back of the court, and I loved it. I loved listening to the cases. Yeah. And then one day I found out that a friend of mine was a magistrate, and I said to him, "Where did you get your law degree?" And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you're a magistrate." He said, "No, you don't have a law degree." He said, "A magistrate is just a person that's an upstanding member of the community that has some ability in judging in right and wrong and reading documents, but it's nothing to do with academic ability. It's more about you as a person and your ability." So I went for 2 interviews and I got appointed as a magistrate. Awesome. And I've been a magistrate for about 15, 16 years now. So it's a voluntary, you don't get paid for it. You can sentence people to up to 6 months imprisonment, or there's fines, or there's and everything in between. You have to sit on trials to make sure whether someone's innocent or guilty. It's absolutely fascinating.
Very cool.
And I never ever thought that I would be able to qualify for that. So I am proud to be a magistrate. That doesn't mean I think more of myself than I should. Yeah. I'm conscious of my inabilities, but nevertheless, I'm proud to serve in such a role.
Well, that means you would probably have to wear a suit, and that would give you a purpose for your old Jehovah's Witness suits.
I've got some lovely suits and ties, and I like wearing a little silk handkerchief in there as well.
What about tie slides? Sometimes you can wear.
No, I don't do tie slides, but I've got hundreds and hundreds of cufflinks. Yeah. I've got this weakness, Danny, for cufflinks.
Yeah.
So if I see any that are in charity shops and they're cheap, I get them.
I used to always wear the cufflinks. I did. I used to finish off, and I used to. Funny enough, people probably wouldn't appreciate this unless they were Jehovah's Witnesses. But I used to collect ties, and I used to have about 100 different ties I'd wear, and it'd be like my thing, you know. But those days ago, I think I've got 10 now.
I could beat you on that, Danny. If I took this camera downstairs to my bedroom, I must have 300, 400, 500 ties down there.
Wow, good on you, mate.
Ties and cufflinks are my weakness.
Yeah, no, good stuff. At least it's ladies, it's shoes, isn't it? Okay, we better carry on. How would your friends describe you? And you got 45 seconds because I've got to get motoring.
How would my friends describe me? I'd like to hear them say, "Do you know what? He's a thoroughly good bloke."
Yeah.
He gets on our nerves sometimes, but no, he's a good bloke. He makes us laugh. He's very helpful. He's an honest guy. What you see is what you get.
Yeah. No secrets.
Not really. I don't think so.
No, I think something I've learned from leaving the organisation is I don't care anymore. I just am who I am. And I've always taught not to lie. And I've always prided myself, I just tell the truth, tell it how it is. And the people that can't take that, I think they need to work on themselves.
I do bend over backwards to make people to not upset people. I can absorb unreasonableness. If people are unreasonable to me, I very, very rarely lose my temper, as you will see on that video that you commented on of me interviewing at that convention. People were downright rude, but I just took it in my stride and laughed, and I'd like to think that's what I'm like.
No, I think you handled yourself very well on that, because it wasn't about you either. It was just about using logic. And here's the facts. This is what I've read. It's not written by me, but how do you interpret that? You know,
you got it.
Crazy. Okay, and aside from necessities, now necessity is coffee, internet. What's one thing you could not go a day without? And then we've got one more question.
Did you say you can't have internet?
Well, you can't use internet because that's kind of a necessity. So apart from necessities.
Oh, sorry. Apart from necessities, what can't you do without?
Yeah, for a day.
Every day.
You're looking for a bad habit. Sounds like a tie collection to me.
No, let me think. What can't I do without? I enjoy a breakfast.
Okay.
A bacon roll, or as they say in Wales, a bacon bap. A bacon roll. Let me say, I do enjoy breakfast.
So, as you said, you're a window cleaner, because being Jehovah's Witnesses, we used to always have jobs where we could manage our own time and we weren't doing a 9 to 5. When you do your window cleaning around, do you do it in the mornings, and do you get up at 5 o'clock?
No, not anymore. When I was a little bit younger and my business was, I needed to earn more. I was up at 4:30, 5 o'clock, traveling all over, cleaning cafes, floors, mopping floors, cleaning businesses, and then going on to doing window cleaning. But no, not anymore. I'm up about, well, I was up, let's see, I went out this morning about 7:30. So right. I don't get up too early now.
That's cool. I forgot about the cleaning, actually. That was another one that they used as well. All right. So last question, and we better call it quits after that. Otherwise, I'll get told off because I haven't even packed yet. But what does a perfect day look like for you? And obviously Christmas is coming up and you've got 8 Christmas trees. So I'm wondering, how does Christmas Day look for you, perhaps?
Well, Christmas, I'm looking forward to Christmas Day. But the perfect day, I suppose, the regular perfect day is me going out to work, perhaps doing a morning's work, enjoying my breakfast, and then coming back, and then perhaps taking my wife and my daughter, Joanne and Mary, taking them maybe out for a walk or shopping, or maybe going to a museum and doing something, splitting the day, doing something that you've got to do, workload, but then also enjoying. So I want to enjoy life. Like I said, memories are better than dreams, and I want to create lots of memories, and live life to the full, I suppose.
No, brilliant. Well done, John. I really enjoyed interviewing you. How do people contact you do you want to be contacted? Are you happy for people to contact you?
I am happy to be contacted. What I tell people is, and I'm very happy to talk about being a Jehovah's Witness or what it was like and my role and everything. And I don't always say, Danny, that it was all bad. There were some good, happy times as well. And that's to be fair. So I'm happy to be contacted to have a chat. What I don't do is debate. I won't debate religion.
I'm glad you said that, because that's what everyone seems to do straight away, isn't it? They want to debate I'm over it.
If you want to be a Jehovah's Witness, or if you haven't been affected by the things that have affected me, don't call me a liar because you haven't been affected by them. I'm telling you the truth, which is why I've made the decision not to do it. But so I won't debate religion with people, but I'm very, very happy to discuss stuff. And I wonder if you would mind, you could put my email address on.
Certainly can.
And I wonder if the one video that you've commented on a few times is when I went to that convention. Perhaps you could put the link to that on, and they could see what I was like at that convention.
One thing I've been doing lately is I've got my YouTube channel, and you can create playlists, and all the good videos that I like about exposing the Jehovah's Witnesses and showing what the organisation is like, I've put them all in one place, and I'm just clicking them in. I put yours in there two of yours actually, because you were interviewed by, who was that guy I originally saw that you interviewed by? There was two of you. There was, it was just recently.
Sean Atwood. Sean Atwood was the guy that we've just done an interview with.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
And that was interesting because Sean comes from a background of sort of crime, hard prisoner type programs.
Yep.
And he was introduced to my colleague Chris, who was on that video, as well. There's a lot of crime going on amongst the Jehovah's Witnesses with child abuse and the shunning and stuff like that. So when he starts his video off, he starts off by saying, well, I'm doing something really different this week.
Yeah.
But I know we've had over about 80,000 hits on that. So
there'll be heaps more, mate.
People can hear more about my life if they tune into that one as well.
I think, and what I did a search about you, and I found quite a few videos, and that's why today I was really pleased to sort of take it from a different angle. I think a lot of people, I think once you leave the organisation, getting your life back in order and having a life outside the organisation is what it was all about today. I really thank you for coming along, John, and I'll put your contact details at the bottom of our notes, and I truly wish you the very best, and I wish you a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, thank you. That's quite strange coming from one Jehovah's Witness to another.
Ex-Jehovah's Witness.
An ex-Jehovah's Witness, yeah. And my best to you and all your viewers in New Zealand. And I really hope I can get over there one day.
Oh yeah, we'll let you in. All right, mate. Thank you.
Nice to speak. Bye then.
Bye.